Welcome to the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast, where you'll be guided on how to step up into your evolved woman,
design your dream life, and start living it. Let's get vibey. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Her Vibe is Pretty. So today's episode is a part 2. All right. So if you have not already listened to part 1, highly recommend that you pause this episode and go back and listen to part 1 first, because we are talking about the top 5 regrets of the dying. And we went through some juicy ones on last week's episode, but this week we are finishing up that list with the final 3. Okay.
Yeah. Last week's episode was definitely, it makes it in my top for sure. Out of all of the episodes we've done on the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast, last week's definitely makes it in my top. It's one of my favorites. And it was like an hour-long episode, but we only got to 2 of the top regrets. And it's because we went so deep into death in general and, how we don't ever think about our death, but we really should if we want to make the most out of this lifetime. So if you haven't gotten a chance to listen to it yet, definitely go do that. Whether you stop for this and go back and listen, or you listen after this. It was phenomenal. I was so happy that I was the one who got to edit that one because so much goodness here.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring.
The feedback that we've gotten already, and this one just went live, like the first part just went live, and the feedback has been unreal on this episode because it's juicy, and again, it's one of those things where you're like, oh my gosh, death. Like, I don't want to think about death. I don't want to talk about death, but it's one of those really important things, your mortality, to like keep that in mind when you're living your life. It helps you keep things in check. It helps you, prioritize, and it helps you, like, that's the goal of this episode, is like, hey, these are the top regrets of people on their deathbed. Mm-hmm. Don't be that person, do your best. And if you think about death now, while you're still healthy and living and, living in the moment, you can make these shifts and changes in your life so that you can live your best life without having these common regrets.
Exactly.
But
before we get into it, Mary, what has been making you feel high vibe the past week?
Oh my goodness. So I actually have a few things. I'll keep them short and sweet though. Okay. So one of them is that I had one of my final doctor's appointments for the baby when it comes to my gestational diabetes. And I'm so grateful to share that everything is going so well. I'm thankfully able to manage it pretty well, which is a huge risk, because when your baby, if you have gestational diabetes and you don't manage it, one of the things that can happen is you can have a very large baby, like 10 plus pounds. Wow. And you can have big babies no matter what, but that's one of the common things that happen with people who have gestational diabetes. So very grateful, because I do not want to give birth to an 11 or 12 pound baby. And Jake was a big baby already. So I kind of was like scared of that to begin with. But she is measuring right on track, which is such good news. And she's healthy and she's moving and everything is going well there. So it's like a sigh of relief. You're always, obviously the most important thing is that you want to give birth to a healthy baby. And so having kind of like that green light at this point is really good. And I'm feeling just relieved and high vibe about that. Mm-hmm. The other thing is you'll have to be watching our YouTube episode of this recording to see, but I have these eyelashes on. I'm going to get close. This might be weird so you can see them, but they're like DIY extensions. Okay. I'm obsessed.
So good. I would think that you had like actual extensions on.
Oh, well, thank you for thinking that. So I will share this link with you guys. I still am at heart, but I'm like diehard lash person. Like Sarah gets her lashes done, and every time she gets a fill, I'm like, God, I want those so bad. But at this point, knowing that I'm about to have a newborn and like I moved, so I'm not as close to the place I was getting them done at, it's just not a realistic thing for me to start to maintain again. And then I found these lashes on Amazon, and they're like I said, DIY extensions, and I'm obsessed. And I put like they're like little mini strips. So I put like 2 little strips on each side. They last for a couple days. So they definitely do not last as long as like your normal extensions do, but they're such a good way to look more put together, I think, without that price tag of getting your lashes done, as well as like just the time commitment. It's just, it's work to get them and keep them maintained and stuff. So
They're so vibey.
I'm feeling really high vibe about the lashes today. So what about you, Sarah? You've got a freaking list of things that you're feeling vibey about. I know it.
Yeah, I do. But I would say that the biggest thing that I'm feeling high vibe about is I am in Florida right now. Again, we're staying in an 11.5 million dollar house.
Dude, this place is unbelievable. And like, I'm not there with her. I wish I was. And one day I will be. Already planning trips to come visit this house again. But like, the videos you've shared in your stories are unreal.
I'm like, am I in a museum? Everybody's asking me on Instagram, what hotel are you at? I'm like, nope, this is a house. And I just want to let you guys in on just a little bit more detail. So manifestation is a real thing. And there are so many things in this house that I've visualized for my own house one day. And obviously I don't live here. We're just vacationing here. But it was manifested, and I'm not paying for a dime of any of this because I manifested it into my experience. I was laughing thinking about the fact that people are probably going to think that I have a sugar daddy down in Florida because
Seriously.
I'm so much staying in these badass places, doing all these cool things, but I don't. I love Zach very much, and he's very well aware of everything that I'm doing here. So
plan B if money ever gets tight.
It's just manifestation.
Life.
Yeah, law of attraction and action, you guys. That's what I'm feeling high vibe about is this beautiful house, and it just creates so many feelings of abundance. And we haven't dove too deep into this yet, and we always tease it and say that we will, and we will eventually. But Mary and I are still really like, Mary and I don't love bringing anything to the show unless we have a guest on that we're not fully confident in embodying ourselves and like not fully knowledgeable on. And we both have been applying manifestation, law of attraction, quantum field kind of stuff into our lives for a while. But eventually we will do some deeper inner work with you guys on how to do it for yourselves. It's coming very soon. I feel like we're like at the tip of it, but we just like to fully embody before we bring anything to the show. And so I'm going to just say a couple of things now, and I promise that it's coming. We'll teach you guys and share with you our thoughts and our opinions and our feelings on all of this. But just to surface level it, I'm a huge believer in quote unquote dark desires and like deep desires. There's so many things that the human mind feels shameful for desiring. So we suppress that. And so what I'm getting at is staying in an $11.5 million home. A lot of people would be like, oh, that's so like materialistic. And there's, so many people in the world who don't even have homes. Why would you ever want to stay in an $11.5 million home? Why would you ever want that? And I understand that. And that's a different topic in itself. But I also believe that we all have these deep, dark desires for a reason. And I truly believe that we can bring our deep, dark desires to surface and we can manifest them. And while we do so, we actually become this really powerful human being that creates a lot of good and a lot of transformation in the world. Like in order to manifest these things, we need to level up. And I'm going to go back to it again, and I'll probably go back to this book for a really long time, but The Desire Factor by Christy Whitman is the book that I'm reading right now. You guys all know this. And it talks about that. It talks about how like those deep, dark desires that you have, the financial abundance, the ability to stay in $1 million homes and experience bliss and expansion and the finer things in life, who you have to become and the things that you have to embody and practice to manifest all of that into your life. That's the divineness. That's like the godly part of manifestation. So yeah, that's what I'm feeling high vibe about, is manifesting this experience into my life. And I know the best is yet to come, that this is just the beginning. So
Hell yeah. That house is incredible. Every time I see your stories, I get like chills because I'm like, take me there. I want to go so bad.
well, and like think of it like this too. And then this is a good way to put everything that I just spoke on like into perspective. Being here, I feel so inspired to create. And you guys know that everything that I create is life-changing. It's going to change your life. Whatever container of mine that you're in, whether it's a course or a breathwork program, or even just listening to this podcast. I mean, you know, Mary and I don't have to be here right now recording this podcast. We don't. We could have waited until I got home, but we want to be, because I want to be here because I'm so ready to create and to channel and to do all the things. It's being here is just like super motivating, and it makes me feel super alive. And so that's how your desires are divine. I mean, I'm literally living that right now. I've been channeling so much. I get up every morning and I do these amazing morning routines, and I just am put into this state of pureness and divineness that gets me super inspired to further guide and inspire all of you.
I love that so much. And I'm dying to start Christy's book. I'm trying so hard. And I literally laughed out loud, Sarah. You shared the funniest reel today. That was like,
yeah.
What was her name? Whatever her name was.
Maybe.
She was like,
it was so good.
We started reading the self-help book, but didn't learn anything, didn't apply anything.
She learned, but she didn't apply.
Oh, learned, but didn't apply. I don't know. Yeah. It was so funny. And it was like, and then immediately finished it. And got another book and didn't apply any of the things she was learning. And that's one thing I'm trying to be a lot better about, because it is like my MO to just like rip through a book as fast as I can, to be like, I finished another book.
Totally.
Instead of taking the time to apply the things, really learn and embody them, because that's where the actual benefits will come from, not just from reading it.
And we've talked about this on here before, like early on in the show, but I used to be the same way. And I would just read book after book, and that's why I shared that. I was like, that was literally me. And honestly, I realized it though. Like there was a point early on where I was like flying through books, and I was like, what the heck? My conscious mind is learning all of this stuff: law of attraction, manifestation, living your best life, believing in yourself, believing in your worth. All like my conscious mind is learning all of this. And I was like, why do I still seem to be the most unhappy person out of everybody in my family when I'm over here reading all of these self-help books and they're not? Right. And I was like, wait a second, it's because I'm not fully embodying these things. Well, why can't I embody them? My mind is super excited about them. And it's like, hell yes to all of this, but I'm not embodying. Why is that? And then once I joined a program with one of my prior coaches and started learning about inner child and subconscious mind and limiting beliefs and core wounding and how to actually shift those on a subconscious level, then it was easier for me to like actually take what I was learning in books and embody it. But yeah, it's like one thing to read the books, and it's another thing to be able to embody everything that you learn.
Yeah. And it sounds like this book by Christy, which you guys, we had an episode with her. I can't off the top of my head remember what number the episode was, but it was solid gold. Like everything that we talked about in that episode was so mind-blowing, was so profound. I just remember, I think I said it many times during the episode. And then after I was like, Christy, gold. Like everything was so good. And everything that you've just said about it, Sarah, like the book, The Desire Factor, pure gold.
Yeah. And okay, a couple things. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube and you're new to the show, you're going to have to go to a podcast app. So Apple Podcasts or Spotify to get that episode with Christy Whitman, because it's not on YouTube. Right. And also one of my friends pointed this out. It's really cool how, so Christy reached out to us, you guys, her PR manager or whatever reached out to us asking if she could come on to our show. And she's big. I mean, she's got a good following. She's worked with celebrities. She's an
New York Times bestselling author. Yeah, she's
huge. And my friend pointed out, she was like, it's really cool that you guys felt in alignment for her. And for some reason, her PR agent reached out to you guys, everybody. That's for a reason. And I'm sharing that with you guys because it's just proof that those messages were meant to come to every single one of you listening or watching. She was here for a reason.
I love it so much. And I can't wait to listen. All right, you guys, Desire Factor, go get yourself a copy.
Go get it, and let's dive into the last
Listen to the episode because it is incredible. But all right, well, we got some dark stuff to talk about, and that's death. Yeah. And so how I want to start this episode is I want to start by just a quick recap of the two top regrets of the dying before we dive into the new ones, okay? So the first one that we went over in the last episode, and again, if you haven't listened to that episode, I'd recommend going back and listening to it probably before this one, but you know what? It's your life, baby. So you can do whatever you want. Just know that we're kind of picking up where we left off from that last episode. So the first one that we went over was, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. Very powerful, very powerful. It makes a lot of sense because it's so easy to get caught up in that and feel like you have to do all the things you should do, or like listen to what your parents are telling you to do, or your, mentors around you, instead of like listening to like, what do you truly want? Mm-hmm. The next one was, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Again, very, very common. I think a lot of people listening, a lot of you guys are going to relate to that because in one way or the other, there's something that you've just, given your all to, and maybe it's not the thing that you really wanted to be, but you felt, again, like you kind of needed to. And so we dove so deep into those. So those are the first two that we went through. But now going into the new ones, the third one was, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Dang.
This one brings up a lot. I feel like there's two different paths that my mind goes to when I reflect on this. So A is express my feelings. Like, the first thing that my mind goes to is when people ask you, how are you? Good. How are you? Good. Oh, good. And that's usually so wrong and false. Like, right. Usually it's not like you're not good, but you just say it because that's what you're quote unquote supposed to do. You're supposed to say that. And so that's where my mind goes first. And then my mind second. So my mind first goes to expressing my feelings, like expressing my feelings with myself, crying when I'm sad, yelling and screaming when I'm mad, into pillows, of course. Like letting myself just feel the overwhelm and like taking a walk and just like breathing when I feel like stressed, letting myself feel the sensations of anxiety. The second place my mind goes to is expressing my feelings to others.
Okay, let's talk first about feeling your own feelings.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about doing it with others, because I know this was a really big one for me. Mm-hmm. This one, I would go as far to say, had one of the biggest impacts on me this last year. Yeah. Was learning how to feel my own feelings myself.
Yeah. Because
I'm all about feeling the good feelings, you guys. Like when life's good and things are going smooth and I'm like loving life. I mean, I immerse myself in that. And I feel like I actually, like, that's one thing that I feel like is a strength of mine, is that ability to like soak it all in, whether it was like my wedding day or like being pregnant now, or like, hitting these milestones in my business. Like I give myself that space to feel all these good feelings and that abundance and that gratitude and the joy and all of it. But when it comes to feeling the uncomfortable feelings, when it comes to feeling stress or anxiety or overwhelm, no, like I don't want to feel that. I don't want to be uncomfortable. How can I avoid those feelings? Right. And so this last year, I mean, Sarah, you were a huge influence on me when it came to this, because I was dealing with a lot of anxiety in the mornings. It was like giving me a stomach ache, like before I would start my day. And it was one of those things that I was not giving myself the space to feel my own feelings and process those feelings. And guess what happens, you guys? And Sarah, I know you probably have more to say on this too, but when you don't let yourself feel those feelings, they live in the body, they linger, they become stress, tension, sickness, all the bad things, you know?
They get stronger.
Yeah. And they get stronger. Exactly. And so it's like, you need to do that work to process through them and feel them before you can truly let them go.
Yeah. Think of it like the best analogy, I guess you could call it, is if somebody's trying to yell and get their point across and get your attention, and something comes in and tries to suppress that voice and shut them up, they're going to try to get louder. Or think of kids, like little children.
Good example. Yeah.
If they start to whine and cry and somebody tries to shut them up, they're going to get louder. They're going to get louder. They're going to get louder until you hear them and see them and acknowledge their needs and their ask. That's how feelings are too. They're going to get in all parts of you. If you try to suppress the parts of you that are speaking, then they're going to get louder and louder and louder until you finally give them a voice, which can feel really uncomfortable to the human body. So yeah, feeling your feels, y'all hear us say it all the time, unless you're new. You have to feel in order to heal. Because once you actually allow yourself to feel the feels that your human experience is feeling, that's when you can actually sift through them and kind of dissipate them. And it makes sense. Like, I'm seeing it in my head as a picture, and maybe you guys are too, or maybe you can. The feels start to come. So whether it's sensations of anxiety or stress or whatever it is, and they're here, and if you suppress them and push them down, they're just going to get more and more and more and more, and it's going to feel worse. But if they come and you just feel them, then they kind of just like start to dissipate and expand and release, and you learn from them. So, and I wonder, Mary, honestly, like I really do wonder, because I think that this is kind of up and coming, the feel in order to heal. I wonder if these people on their deathbed who said, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings, I wonder if they meant what we're talking about, but I wonder if the minds in them thought that they meant, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings to others. You know what I mean? Because I think when you hear that statement, you think, okay, express my feelings, like tell others that I love them, or this is how I feel. And I'm sure that that's not, I'm sure that plays a role here too, for sure. Like I said, that's where my mind goes secondly, but I wonder if these humans who are on their deathbed saying this meant this, even if they didn't realize it.
Yeah, I would bet that it was about expressing it to others. And I want to talk about that too, because I think that is such a valuable thing that we don't do enough as a society. Obviously, that's a generalized statement. I'm sure there's some of you that are rock stars at it, but I think it's a hard thing to express our feelings. And yeah, the one thing I want to share, and then if there's anything else about feeling your feelings yourself, Sarah, that you want to share before we talk about expressing with others, was that, you know, again, unless you're brand new here, which welcome, by the way. But you guys know that we love breath work. And I know breath work was the practice that truly helped me get to that deeper state of mind where I could feel my feelings. There were times in my breath work sessions where I would laugh out loud hysterically. There were times in my breathwork sessions I would cry. There were times where I would feel this urge to scream into, like, well, sometimes I just screamed out loud if no one was home, but I started screaming into a pillow. It was all so healing and so powerful. And that worked for me. So that doesn't mean like that will absolutely work for you, because we're all unique and we're all different, but find ways that help you tap into that sense of feeling and give yourself that space to feel it, and know like don't do it with judgment. And I know that's easier said than done, but like, don't feel bad for feeling anxious. Don't feel bad for feeling angry or upset. Don't feel bad for feeling stressed out or overwhelmed, because you're just adding fuel to the fire there. It's okay to feel that. Like, we are humans and we are going to have a full range of feelings and emotions. Like, that's part of this experience. And we need to do our part by allowing ourselves to feel them with grace, with love, without judgment for what the feeling is.
Well,
So
and what you just said, think about it. So let's say that you're feeling sensations of anxiety. And then instead of feeling that and letting it go, you add on top of the anxiety some shame.
yeah.
Feeling the sensations of
This is
anxiety.
dumb. Why are you upset about this? Why are you stressed about this? What's wrong with you? Like, those were the thoughts that would go through my mind every day. Like, this is terrible. Life's not good. I'm not supposed to feel this way.
Yeah. So then you have the anxiety, and then you have the shame, and then you add some guilt onto there, and then you add some frustration, right? Well, I'm going to do this with my fingers instead.
Yeah.
So you have the anxiety, and then
nice
you have
little anxiety sandwich there.
yeah, and then you have the guilt, and then you have the frustration, and then you have the annoyance, and then you have the sadness, and then you have the anger, and then all of a sudden you have all these sensations stacked up on top of one another, creating so much pain in the body, when really, if you just started with that base sensation of the anxiety, allowed yourself to feel it and explore it and be like, okay, why am I creating the sensations of anxiety right now? Because at the end of the day, you are creating your sensations, whether it's the subconscious mind, the wounded inner child, the limiting beliefs, or the conscious mind, or the stories you're telling about something. You create your own sensations.
Mm-hmm.
Something could happen to one person and the same thing could happen to another, and both of those individuals could perceive it differently and feel differently about the thing. It happens every single day because we decide how we feel about things. So yeah, expressing your feelings to yourself first and then to others, which we're going to talk about next, is crucial in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see and I can understand why people would regret this, not doing this.
So now let's chatting a little bit about expressing our feelings to others. And I feel like there's also another common regret that's not only the person on the deathbed, but their loved ones who I think feel this regret too. I wish I would have shared how much I loved this person. Now they're gone, or it's too late, or I didn't have the chance, obviously depending on the situation. I cannot express enough how powerful and important it is for you to tell the people in your life that you love them.
Right.
And we get caught up in our busy lives. We get caught up in assuming, well, I already know, I don't need to keep telling them that. Or you just forget. It just becomes this thing that you're like, yeah, whatever, they're my daughter, they're my son, they're my best friend, they're my mom, they're my dad, they're my aunt, uncle, whoever, grandma, grandpa. It's so important to communicate that on a regular basis and share those feelings and make that part of every interaction you have, or, find ways to infuse that into the situation or the conversation, I should say, because I don't think we do it enough. Yeah. And it's so important, and it just builds that foundation that much deeper. And again, it's such an easy way to live your life in alignment with how you feel.
Yeah.
And that feels good.
Totally. It's so funny. And this is going to bring up a lot for a lot of people, I feel like, because I'm reflecting on, I personally grew up in a home where there were a lot of I love yous. And so it's natural and easy for me to say it. But I know that there are a lot of people who have not grown up with that. And it's foreign to them because their parents or guardians, whoever raised them, they weren't taught to express themselves. And so I know that can feel sticky. And then also, and I mean, I feel this myself sometimes. I always value a friendship where when we're at the end of a phone call or a call, it's like, I love you. Or when we're saying goodbye to each other, it's like, I love you. Thanks for coming over. I value that so much. And every time somebody says that to me, I'm like, I love you so much. And I'm so glad that you expressed that. Yeah. But there are some times where it's like, oh, if I say love you to this person before the call, like, are they going to think that's weird? Are they going to not say it back? Like, are they not going to be open to receiving that love? Right. There's a lot of story that can come up around this.
You brought up a really, really good point, and I completely agree about especially someone coming from that environment where that was not part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. To then all of a sudden be like, hey, I love you. I mean, that's a bold move for someone who has maybe never said that, or maybe said it like when they were a child.
Right.
And I think a couple things that I want to add to that is that it doesn't, you need to do what aligns with you, and you can take baby steps in this category as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an I love you, but I'm the same as you, Sarah, because like I love saying that too. Yeah. And I do know what you mean where you're like, whoa, was that too much to say to this friend? Do they love me? Do they not love me? I don't know. But it could be something like, I'm proud of you, or I see what you're doing. You did a really good job. Mm-hmm. Or like, you're working so hard. Like that person's really lucky to have you in their life. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be quote unquote, I love you to be an emotion, or express your feeling. I think just generally becoming more vocal about the thoughts that are passing your mind. This was a huge, actually, so that's like taking me down another little rabbit hole, but this was a huge thing with Jake and I when we first started dating, because he didn't express to me how he felt. He thought I just knew. She knows. And I was like, tell me you love me all the time.
The guys are like that. I mean, I'm not going to put them all in one category because not everybody is, but I feel like a lot of the times guys are taught from a young age to be tough and don't express yourself. Like suppress it all and act like the tough macho man.
Right. And it's not doing anyone any good. So I think the big takeaway here and the action item for you guys here is think of someone that you care for deeply. Think of something that you admire about someone. Think of someone that you love. And maybe you haven't said that to them recently, and reach out to them, call them, text them, anything. Start expressing this. And again, start in a way that feels aligning for you, that doesn't feel fake, or, even if it is kind of giving you little butterflies because you've never said it before. But I promise you, once you do, you're going to feel so much better. And then you won't be that person on your deathbed that's like, I wish I would have,
Exactly.
So
and I also mentioned too that like, as you begin to evolve into your highest self, the innateness in your body, because at the core of who all of us are is our soul, who is love. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no like expressing love because you just are love. Once you tap into that, it feels so much easier to express the love. And Mary and I tell you guys at the end of every single episode that we love you. And it's not just a little like, love ya. It's like, we actually love you guys. I totally believe in, there was one of my mentors who talked about this. This is why I'm bringing this up right now. But I believe that we can love people who we don't even like actually know, because love is an energy. Mm-hmm. It really is. And I think that the human minds tell a lot of story about what love is. And which I think is a disconnect. And I think that's why we don't express it as much, because there's a lot of story around the word love. But at the end of the day, just remember that love is literally just an energy. It's a feeling, it's a vibration. And no matter what, even if the person on the other end is taken back by the expression of your love or whatever, like
doesn't reciprocate, that's okay.
Reciprocate it, it's okay. Because it's a vibration. And if you express to somebody genuinely that you love them, they're going to feel it, even if the human mind in them doesn't like feel it, right? Or like understand it right away. They're going to still feel that on the deep level. So just remember
that. That's really good advice. It really is. Yeah. Anything else on that topic?
No, I don't.
I'm ready to roll to the next one.
Just I love you more, guys.
Yes. And I love you listening. We both do.
We love you guys so much. Okay, moving on.
Okay. The next one is, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends.
This is good.
This is another really good one. And this is one that I feel so, to put a little perspective for you guys, when you're young and when you're growing up, your friends are your priority, they're your number one, a lot of times before your family. And it's interesting to see how friendships have shifted and changed as life has gone on. Some stay with you through it all. Some come, some go away for a while and then come back. And, there's all sorts of different dynamics when it comes to friendships. But as I start to Sarah is in her 20s, I'm in my 30s. It's been interesting to see how my priority of my friendships have shifted. And I think what I see a lot in people that are even older than I am are, you know, that the friendship just kind of keeps get put a little bit lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower on that priority totem pole. And hearing this and seeing this is like that reminder, even to myself, to like, don't let that keep dropping. Keep it up at the top, right where it should be, because our relationships and our friendships are what enrich our lives. Like, are we going to be on our deathbed being like, I wish I would have scrolled Instagram a little bit more? Are we going to be like, I wish I would have spent time with the people that I love the most a little bit more? And I bet your ass it's going to be the latter one. Like, you're going to want to spend time with people, and it gets harder the older you get. There's no doubt about that. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've got it all figured out, because I'm still navigating that too, very much so. But I think the key here for me, and here's my little personal takeaway from reading that one, is like, I need to take that initiative to set up those coffee dates, to set up those phone dates, to, you know, make an effort to have a game night or a wine night or whatever with my friends, so that I don't let those relationships just kind of fall to the wayside, which it doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you don't care about them. It just can happen because life happens and we get busy and caught up in our day to day, and you know the drill.
Yeah. This one honestly surprised me at first when I read it, but I also like have a couple things to say on this. So first of all, I think it surprised me because a lot of people will, and I definitely have seen myself here before multiple times, and I wouldn't doubt that I might find myself here again, but like having this conversation is going to shift that for me. I feel like family, especially if you're somebody who wants to start a family, or when you start a family, that tends to get prioritized over friendships. But what I want to remind all of you is that family is like not an option, right? So you don't, well, I mean, I believe that we choose our parents. I think our souls do once we come into the world. And I think we choose our siblings, but they're just kind of like, to the human mind, you're given your parents, you're given your siblings, you're given your cousins, you're given your aunts and uncles, and you're kind of just given your family. But I think deep down that family, and the word family, to me, it's like you think that you have your family, but you actually have the ability to choose your family. And I think that as far as souls go, I think that our friends and the friends that we attract into our lives a lot of the time end up being more like the common typical perception of family than your actual blood related family. Do you know what I'm saying with that? Like, it's like what's that quote? It's like, you can't, I'm going to slaughter it. I don't know. It's something along the lines of like, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends.
Right.
And I know that I have a lot of friends who feel like family to me, but the mind in me is like, well, put family first. But then the soul in me is like, but no, like your friends are your family. Like you should treat them just like you're treating your blood relatives, because they are your family.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that comes up with me, or it comes to me when it comes to that. But then also, and the second thing that comes up for me when it comes to, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends, is I feel like in relationships and intimate relationships, it's so easy to not want your partner to hang out with their friends all the time, because you want them to yourself and you want them to like do family things with you, and you want to do things with their families, because that's just kind of like that thing that you quote unquote do. You know, you get in a partnership and you guys spend time with your families because that's proper and that's important to get to know each other's families and to just like be with each other and start your own family. I just feel like when you have a partnership and an intimate relationship, it becomes all about the person and your guys' families. And so you guys, I just want you to take this quote, because I'm honestly applying this to my life right now in my relationship. The fact that people on their deathbed, one of their biggest regrets is, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Remember this next time you get irritated by your partner going out with friends, because I know I'm going to. And I'm going to make more of an effort myself to, because it's so easy when you're in a loving relationship. It's so easy to want to spend all your time with that person, right, and not be with your friends as much. It's so easy to fall into that. But like just hearing that a lot of people have this as a regret, I can see it from their side. I understand it. And I myself, I'm going to make more of an effort to be with my friends instead of my partner, because I have the rest of my life with my partner. And
Right.
yeah. So just remember this regret when you are, and not that it's a bad thing to like ask for what you want and to want that alone time with your partner. I think that's so important.
You need a balance. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's got to be balance.
But I think it's very easy to let that get skewed. And it's easy to just be like, we're just going to stay in together, the two of us. And it's like, it's a slippery slope, I think. And I'm speaking from my experience. So call your friends, make a hangout date, do the damn thing. All right. The last one. This is a good one. Okay. Yeah. So the last regret of the dying, top regret, is that I wish I had let myself be happier. Boom.
Oh, good. And you guys, I think the biggest thing, what comes up in me from the get-go is, and I know this just kind of from like my studies of humans and our emotionality and our mentality and our subconscious minds and our inner children, but we as a society are addicted to suffering.
Okay, pause. I literally had that written down as my first thing that came to mind for me. We're addicted to suffering.
Yeah.
We have the same brain, Sarah.
No, we do. Eventually this podcast isn't going to be entertaining anymore because we're just going to be saying this.
We just have the same ideas over and over again.
Yeah, we're, as a human society, we're addicted to suffering, and suffering seems normal, and suffering, there are so many things that I say, and I find myself saying this so much more now, especially as I start to have conversations like this with friends and family who aren't necessarily fully on this journey yet. There are so many things that are normalized but not normal, like binge and emotional eating. Because when I think of normal, I think like, oh, it's normal, it's okay, everybody does it, it's fine, it's a part of life, right? But binge and emotional eating is something that's normalized, but it's not normal. Like, it doesn't have reality. It's just like we're addicted to suffering, and that feels safe. But that's not the only thing. That just is what comes up because that's what my forte is. But where suffering feels safe, and it feels like we can connect to people when we give into the suffering, when we surrender, and we, when we're around certain people or friends or groups of people who are like talking about something low vibe or making fun of somebody or tearing somebody down, it just feels normal to give in and to fit in and to be on that lower vibration because that's what feels safe and feels comfortable. And there's just so much to this one little quote, but suffering.
Yeah. I feel like you're the odd one, or like sometimes people are like, why are you happy all the time? What's wrong with you? It can't be. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but why can't it be? Like that's where we are normalizing this addiction to the suffering. And I think a lot of it comes down to those limiting beliefs of like, you can't be happy all the time.
Right.
And again, we're humans. We're going to have a range of emotions. But when you tell yourself like, I can't be happy all the time, or you see someone who's happy and you're like, what's wrong with them? Like, what are they on or what are they doing? I mean, that's just reinforcing that limiting belief that you just can't be happy all the time. Yet, if you have someone who's angry all the time, sad all the time, pissed off all the time, no one really sees anything wrong with that. It's like, oh, life,
Totally. And yeah, you are spot on with all of that. And I just feel like people think, and I used to be here, that there's got to be at least something wrong. And if there's not at least one thing wrong, then you're not normal. But like, that's not true. We're just so trained to be addicted to suffering. And
it's like we are training our brains almost to like look for that thing to go wrong or to be incorrect or to make us unhappy or to stress us out. And it goes back to what we've said before too, that idea of like, what you like focus on, you create more of in your life. And so it's shifting that pattern of thought from, what could go wrong to what could go right. For example, You know, what do I have to be pissed off about today? I guarantee I could sit here and come up with 10 things to be pissed off about today. But do I want to focus on that? Or do I want to focus on what are the things I'm grateful for today? What are the things today that are bringing me joy and happiness? Like it's a way of thinking, and it's a practice, and you need to consciously, like, I tend to be, there's no doubt, I tend to be a more optimistic person. I tend to see the glass half full, whole thing like that. And not everyone is like that, you know? So wherever you fall on that spectrum, some people have to work at this a little bit harder than others, but we all have to work at it in one way or another, because again, it's the society that we're in. It's, you know, we're watching the news all the time. We're scrolling through social media all the time. All these terrible things happening in the world are happening to people, and it's heartbreaking and it's upsetting and it's stressful, and you feel, you know, upset about it, and you're letting yourself feel upset by it. But again, at the end of your life, when you have days left, are you going to be glad that you felt so depressed watching the news every single day? Or are you going to wish that you gave yourself more freedom to be happy, more freedom to play, more freedom to spend time with people that lift you up instead of bring you down, that you took the time to find creative, fun ways to make life extra special? That's what we're talking about here, you know, and that takes effort. Like, that takes conscious effort, because again, not all of us are programmed to just automatically do those things. So start thinking about it. Okay, wait, this goes back to what, 2 episodes ago, where it's like, make the list of things that make you happy, make the list of things that you do every day, compare those lists, and then adjust accordingly. Start doing more things that make you happy every day, because when you're dying or about to be dead, you're going to wish that you did that when you were in this moment right now, listening to this.
So inspiring. Another thing that comes up too is, like, I'm thinking of somebody right now who, this person will be doing such a good job on something, and it's just amazing, and everybody is complimenting this person, and this person always has a way of making the thing seem like a struggle. And I know that's because of the conditioning that, like, and it reminds me too of how we struggle to receive a lot. So it's like somebody presents you, oh my God, I love that dress. And innately it's like, oh, really? Oh, I don't think it looks that great on me. Or like, oh, really? It has a stain on it. Or, oh, I got it. There's always got to be a something that it can't just be a thank you. I love it too. It's just, there's got to always be, maybe like a things I got it on sale at Target for $9.99. You know, it just can't be a full there can't be a full receivership. Well, there can be, but a lot of the time there's not.
Right.
Because we don't let ourselves just fully receive that, like, bliss and joy that's being thrown at us. We always feel like there's got to be some kind of a, like, not an excuse, but there's got to be like,
yeah, there's got to be something wrong with it. Or like, so what came to mind when you were saying that is that idea too of, like, even when you're killing it and you're like hitting your goals and you're, you know, slaying it at whatever you're working towards and you're making these strides, it's like you're never content. You're never satisfied. You never let yourself be happy in those moments. There's always something else you can be working towards. There's always something else you could be doing. And that is what you're focused on. Like, I know I come back to this idea a lot of, like, I'll be happy when fill in the blank. And that does us no good. We need to, it doesn't mean don't strive for bigger and better things. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is enjoy the crap out of this very moment. Be happy, be grateful, feel the feelings, feel the abundance, like, soak it all in, enjoy it. But also know that, like, life can continue to, it's good now, it's going to continue to be good, and it can get even better. And it's amazing.
Right. So action items for this is to let yourself be happy. Let yourself bask in the bliss and the happiness and the expansion and the creativity that you're creating. Let yourself receive compliments. Try just saying thank you next time.
Yes.
It's a compliment. That's your action.
So
That's
good.
a little baby step to take. You have full permission to let go. And this is easier said than done, because all of this that we're talking about comes back to the subconscious mind and what the inner child and what you were taught as a child. If you were taught that there's always going to be a struggle, and struggle is always present, and life is never easy, and there's always something to complain about, and there's always something to ruin the fun, and something bad always happens to you. And of course it happens to you. Like, these things always happen to you. And if you're taught that mentality of like things happen to you and not for you, and if you have that wound in your body that like, I'm not enough or I'm not worthy, then of course this is going to be really hard to let yourself be happy, which is a great full circle. I mean, we've been in this podcast for over a year. This moment right now and what we're talking about right now is a great full circle moment to episode number 2, which is limiting beliefs. Like, this right here and what we've been talking about, all of these regrets, these 5 regrets of the people on the deathbed, is the reason why it is so important to dive into this work right now. No matter what age you are, if you're listening to this, your body is still alive. These regrets are why you get to start doing the internal work, why you get to listen to these episodes, embody what we're talking about, dive into inner child and limiting beliefs and core wounds and subconscious mind and destructive patterns and destructive habits, and feeling your feels and living your life for you instead of others, and working less and learning the quantum field and manifestation and law of attraction. Like this, and I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really the most expansive and enlightening path that you can take in this lifetime. And this is why you get to do all of this, is because a lot of people on their deathbed regret not letting themselves be happy. And it can be really easy to fall into that when you don't do this inner work.
Yeah. I agree with everything you just said. Preach, sister. Good job. So that's it, you guys. Those were the 5 top regrets of the dying. I hope that you guys have some, you have some homework to do after this episode, because we've given you lots of, very actionable steps for you to take to start really living and embodying these things. But remember, it's all a process. It takes time. Don't be hard on yourself, and just keep taking those baby steps. And I promise those baby steps add up over time. So keep taking them, and we are here with you every single step of the way.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple exciting things going on. We started a YouTube channel, baby. So make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Her Vibe is Pretty. We're going to be posting the recordings, these live recordings, of us recording the episodes. So it'll be fun to kind of watch us, and you can see what we're doing and, how we respond to these things. I just feel like can be a really fun way to consume podcasts via video. Also, join our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is absolutely incredible. It feels like a little virtual family, and you get a little virtual hug, it feels like, every time you go onto that page. So be sure to check that out and join. Our Instagram, Her Vibe is Pretty Podcast. Give us a follow there. We would love to have you join our Instagram family. We're all about social media, using social media for good. And I feel like we, have just an incredible community there, and we want you to be a part of it.
Yeah. You are officially in the Pretty Vibe tribe when you engage with us on one of the socials, whether that's Facebook or Instagram. And you guys, they're fire. I mean, there has been a lot of good stuff going out there. So follow, like, subscribe, do all the things, give back to us in return for us giving these episodes to you. Let this be an equal energetic exchange. We love you guys so much, and we mean that. Let us know how you like this episode, and we will talk to you all next week.
All right. We love you. Bye.
Bye.